Hi, so this video is a follow-up to the one I just did last week about the theme of anti-Semitism in the converging apostasy. And I said I would be reading from a book called The Rainbow Swastika, which is a report to the Jewish people by a Jewish woman about the warning about the New Age movement. So in this video, you will hear that, the introduction, and one of the chapters about the plan. So this is mostly listenable. There's not a lot to see here on the screen, except for the first clip. So the introduction provides a little more information about, some anti-Semitic quotes and things from like Alice Bailey and others. And then the other chapter is really more just exposing the New Age. So it's a really good chapter on exposing the New Age movement in general. And I have a little clip in here from a TV show from like the 70s, an interview with a woman who wrote a book about the Nazis and the occult. So, and I'm going to leave a link below for a video I did called The Setup for Christian Persecution or something, where I show how the New Agers, the Latter Rainers, and the Zionists all do have plans to do that. But at the same time, in the New Age, when you hear the words, their own words, the powers that be in the New Age movement, or the powers that have been, they definitely do want to eliminate Christians and Jews. So anybody who wants to be separate from their movement. So anyway, that is what this video is about. And again, thank you for watching or listening.
Hello, I'm Jessie Gray. Welcome to Personalities. This afternoon we have a guest whom I talked to around 4 months ago and have been wanting to meet ever since. Her name is Dusty Sklar. She's the author of the book Gods and Beasts. It's about the relationship of the occult beliefs and the rise of the Nazi philosophy in Germany during, of course, pre- and World War II. She's going to tell us more about it, and I welcome you. Thank you for coming. First of all, before we go into how the occult beliefs influenced Nazism, what do you consider occult?
Well, occult simply means hidden, and occult societies usually act on the assumption that you can develop these hidden secret powers if you work on yourself in the right way and under the right master.
By hidden, though, does that include, let's take the popular forms of the occult, the astrology, extrasensory perception, the what we'd call the cultist groups?
Well, the occultists take all those ideas and claim that they're part of an ancient body of knowledge that's been lost, and that only they are privy to, because they're using certain rituals to restore themselves to this lost knowledge.
How did the Nazis use the occult, or these supposedly sacred and very sacred and what am I trying to say, precious and privy only to a few beliefs?
Well, I should tell you that the story begins in pre-World War I Germany, and there were two occult groups in particular that I researched: George Lanz von Liebenfeld's Order of New Templars and Guido von List's Armanen. And both of these groups were patterned pretty much after the Theosophical Society, Madame Blavatsky had developed a package that appealed to many people all over Europe and in America, and she became the model for occult groups at that time. And both Lanz and List used her syncretism, but with a peculiar twist. They married Darwin's idea of evolution with Hindu ideas of racial purity, and came up with the idea that the Aryan had been a lost race of supermen that had declined because they merged their pure blood with the defiled blood of the Jews.
When were these books published? When were these philosophies
Well, this was shortly before World War I, at the turn of the century.
Oh, for goodness sake. Then how did the Nazis pick these cultist beliefs up?
Well, then, just before World War I, these two groups merged under an umbrella organization called the Thule Society. And the Thule Society did not become political until after World War I. And that eventually became the Nazi Party. But the seeds of the
merged
occult.
directly, it became transformed directly into the Nazi Party.
Right, with the same ideology, the same platform. But the important thing is that all the policies that the Nazis implemented were already suggested by these occult groups, Lanz and List. Lanz proposed the extermination of the Jews as a way to restore this lost civilization. Another thing to remember is that these men had fathers who had been influenced by Lanz and List. They were taught by teachers who had been influenced, so that this was not a totally new thing to them. But the main thing is that Hitler appealed to people on the basis that he was going to usher in a new age, and a new age, and a new age, and they were going to be the new men in this new age. They were going to be the elite, and this was terribly appealing.
And he must have taken very seriously the fact that these beliefs also held the fact that a new Messiah or a Messiah was necessary, and everybody had a blind obedience to the Messiah, that was a necessary and integral part of this whole occult belief. Am I right?
Yes. One of the surprising things that I found in researching the book was that the Messiah was awaited with great eagerness long before Hitler came. This too began in the late 19th century. There was very much the feeling of the last days, and the second coming of the Messiah was expected imminently. And Lanz tried to put himself forth as the Messiah, and so did List, and it didn't work. But a lot of people around were preaching the coming of the Messiah. And Hitler, when he first came on the scene, did not declare himself the Messiah. He was only the herald. But gradually he evolved into the Messiah figure. And contemporary observers have written that they used to see pictures in Germany of Hitler in store windows flanked by pictures of Jesus.
Really?
And that these were yanked out at some point.
Sounds really terribly, terribly similar to many of the cultist groups today. Do you see any possibility of something like this happening here?
Well, this is one reason I wrote the book, Jesse, because I began to look around at many of the cults that have grown to an alarming rate in America today, and I see the same sort of thing happening. There are men coming forth and claiming to be messiahs and being believed by perfectly decent, idealistic young people, intelligent, many of them. And the techniques that they use are classic brainwashing techniques, which I think people don't take seriously. We look at these cults and think they're innocuous, but they are actually using mind control.
Well, we only think they're innocuous because their proportions haven't been large enough yet to affect government decisions, perhaps, which influence us directly. I mean, I guess until it reaches that level, people don't pay much attention to them unless, of course, they have someone in one and are immediately affected by it. I guess that's the basis for everything.
But many of these cults make no bones about the fact that they have political ambitions. They have political ambitions. They have political ambitions.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Brainwashing techniques, the same idealism is brought, or at least imposed, and seems endless. You'd think it would stop after people learn and other, for instance, the Nazis have been exposed, but it doesn't stop. It just changes form a little and keeps right on going, doesn't it? Just changes form a little and keeps right on going, doesn't it?
Well, I don't think people are paying any attention. I mean, I think this too happened in Nazi Germany. After the war, people said if we had only known what it's about, we would have stopped him right at the beginning. And today in America, there are people who are assuming a lot of power and amassing a lot of wealth and influencing many, many young people, and nobody's doing anything. I think years from now, they may look back and say the same thing. If we had only known what this man was about at the beginning.
Do you see the cults rising to that much power?
I see that it's possible for the cults to merge under one umbrella organization in America and be taken over by a politically right group, just as happened in Germany.
You do.
Okay, I'm reading The Rainbow Swastika by Hanna Newman. This is similar to Constance Cumby's Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow, although it was written later. And this is written by a Jewish woman writing to warn Jewish people about the New Age. I'm just going to read a couple pages. Notes from the author. This article appeared originally as Masters of the Blinding Light, What the Jewish People Should Know About the New Age Movement, posted to the web in March of '97, courtesy of the Jewish Student Union, University of Colorado. A copy was filed at that time in the archives of the Sassoon Center for the Study of Anti-Semitism, Hebrew University, Jerusalem. It was removed from the University of Colorado web server in October 99 without notice of or explanation, but for those interested, it can still be found on other sites. This is a newer version with many important additions as well as updated facts and better links. As before, all the material in this series is drawn directly from New Age leaders themselves, either as direct quotes or summaries from primary sources. Only occasionally did I resort to secondhand information. In other words, someone else writing about the New Age from the outside. These are duly noted and are limited to sources either neutral or favorable to New Age philosophy. Undocumented quotes were considered hearsay and not used at all. Any of my own comments or opinions are enclosed in brackets like this to distinguish them from the objective report. If anyone has other documented evidence pertaining to any subject addressed here, feel free to contact me. Note, there are no copyright restrictions. As far as I'm concerned, you may quote, reproduce, and distribute on two conditions. That you leave it as it stands, do not put words in my mouth, or delete text without making it clear that you've done so, and that it is offered for free. But first, a few words to the different readers checking out these pages. All material from this point until Part A are, of course, my own perceptions, but they are based on 4 years of intensive absorption of the New Age mentality, and I submit them with the confidence that they are accurate. News for Jews involved in New Age groups. In a nutshell, the New Age is a political/religious movement which seeks to unite the world under the guidance of non-human spirits in the process of singling out Judaism and eventually the Jewish people for destruction. One of the new things about the New Age is a human race purged of all Jewish presence. That's ridiculous, you will automatically say. If New Age stands for anything, it stands for a new era of enlightened equality for all people and all religions. Are you willing to test this claim? If it's true, then we can find New Age leaders everywhere teaching that historical Judaism, the Judaism which survived and developed over 4,000 years, known today as Orthodox Judaism, is as enlightened a religion as any other on the planet, right? Oops. Well, okay, there is the Jewish people, and then there's Judaism. The fact that Orthodox Judaism is targeted for elimination in the coming New Age will come as a shock to some involved in New Age groups, which preach tolerance for all religions of the world. Others are aware of it, but feel that Judaism really is a separatist, arrogant religion based on an outmoded, narrow code called Torah, which has been needlessly restricting humanity. Of course, it has to go, or at least be overhauled until its distinctives are removed. But as far as hostility toward ethnic Jewish identity, most New Agers will say with confidence, no way, Jews are fully accepted in New Age circles. If you believe this, you've been had. 2 things to think about. Number 1, an assault on Judaism is an attempt to eliminate the Jews. At the risk of stating the obvious, if there were no actual Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, no event in history called the Exodus, no Sinai experience or Promised Land or chosen people, and especially no God of Israel who did the choosing and the promising, then there is no legitimate basis for carrying on about descendants called Jews. In this framework, Jewish heritage can no doubt be appreciated for its edifying fables. But Jewish heritage cannot be allowed to intrude on real-world politics, religious consensus, or social conscience, any more than Little Red Riding Hood can file assault charges in a court of law against the big bad wolf. If the Jewish Bible does not chronicle a real history of the Jews, then all that we have are people living in delusions of identity and insisting that the rest of the world play along. This is exactly what New Age architect Alice Bailey concluded. Like a deranged individual who can't separate fantasy from reality, the Jews are dysfunctional at best and possibly dangerous to themselves and others. In dealing with those who refuse to give up the fantasy, isolation and confinement may be necessary for the good of all. You have just had a glimpse into the internal logic of the plan, the unassuming title New Age leaders have given their agenda. The Jewish people, whether they know it or not, are a dysfunctional segment of humanity. Anyone who humors them is not doing them or the world any favors. Their rehabilitation must begin by eliminating the religion which gave them these delusions, a religion so powerful that it unfortunately has infected other religions and peoples with a belief in the one God as revealed to Israel. To set things right, part of New Age transformation of society involves spreading disinformation about the Jewish religion. There is no concern here for factual accuracy. Truth is irrelevant to the art of molding public opinion in an entity war, as New Ager and UN leader Robert Mueller has described it. The goal behind delegitimization of this religion is to remove its influence from other spiritual systems, especially from Christianity, the daughter religion of Judaism and the most corrupted by it. Pause. It's important to recognize that in the minds of the New Agers and Gnostics, that Jehovah is the demiurge, an evil god that created the world. And the Jews are not on the top of their list. Let's just say it that way. And that Christianity is just a result of Judaism. So they will want to get rid of all of that. Unpause. If possible, the goal is to remove Jews from its influence as well, and those who crave to be accepted by the world will eagerly help them trash Judaism and their peoplehood along with it. As for Jews who refuse to give up this identity delusion, the plan has a final solution. Benevolent, of course. If you support the progressive idea that Jews have a future without the old age Judaism, then dare to test it. Go out and see if you can find Jewish children raised without loyalty to Torah who still care to identify themselves as Jews. You will find some, but then search for their children. Talk to the many who have left the Jewish label behind as irrelevant, and you will find them both intelligent and brutally honest. They have simply faced the truth more squarely than their parents. The new Judaism cannot justify itself to the next generation. This is not to be confused with those who reject Judaism for hypocrisy, lukewarm worship, racial arrogance, all of which are sins against Torah. This is a completely different issue, which is legitimate and will be discussed elsewhere. Here I mean the new Judaism, which rejects the Torah itself as the sin. Number 2, the New Age is founded on spiritual racism. If you believe Jewish people are accepted as equals in the coming age of Aquarius, you are uninformed concerning the doctrine of racial karma. This is a basic teaching of Theosophy, the mainspring of the New Age movement, and is expanded in the writings of Alice A. Bailey. It limits all Jews to inferior spiritual status, regardless of their enlightened behavior. Never heard of it? This series of articles is dedicated to acquainting you with this and other foundational teachings of New Age philosophy which are overlooked in courses for seekers, seminars for world servers, and low-level initiates into esoteric schools and societies. The truth of my claims can be verified by anyone with access to the unabridged works of key New Age leaders quoted in the series. I'm going to read a little more down here. It says, who's worried about lunatic fringe group? As you will see later, Alice Bailey was one of the most anti-Semitic occultists of the century. For those who insist that Bailey's doctrine is safely marginalized among obscure occultists, it will come as a shock to discover that she was indirectly awarded the UNESCO Peace Education Prize in 1989, and that her teachings are already incorporated in schools around the world, including U.S. public schools, via the Goals 2000 program. Lunatic, perhaps. Fringe, no. No longer. Especially not with global star Robert Mueller openly promoting her teachings. The benevolent conspiracy, as New Age leader Marilyn Ferguson called it back in 1980, has been so successful that today it is the standard for social, political, and religious acceptability. It is consciously supported by a surprising number of prominent public figures and grassroots groups, although not all are aware of the anti-Semitism, and its teachings are being unknowingly absorbed by many more. For these reasons alone, it is urgent that we become informed about their platform. I have heard from skeptics who don't doubt the existence of a New Age conspiracy, benevolent or otherwise, and who recognize the danger to the Jewish people, but who are sure that such a movement will never have the world's support to pull off its agenda. They point to the repeated postponements of New Age predictions of a world teacher emerging by a certain date to guide mankind into a planetary Luciferic initiation, a one-world government, and a new age. These delays are actually the result of divine veto for now, which New Agers indirectly acknowledge and which they are unable to circumvent. To attribute these glitches to a disorganized movement is dangerous and ignores the fact that the growth of New Age influence worldwide is solidifying exponentially each year. Read before you scoff, please. Okay, so this was written in like the 90s. And I think right now we can say that it has definitely grown very exponentially. Notes for opponents of New Age teaching. It's a rare individual these days who does not have a friend or relative mesmerized by the New Age light and love double talk. If you do, you know how painful it is to watch someone close to you losing their psychological stability, abandoning their normal responsibilities and relationships, and slipping away into a self-absorbed quest for do-it-yourself godhood, doomed to fail again and again. The linked information below will add to your distress, especially if you and or your friend are Jewish. But you also gain insight as to how someone could fall for such empty promises and contradictions. That insight can give you leverage to help them get back to solid ground. If you have faith in the God of Israel, you will find him an interested and indispensable ally in rescuing the people you care about. Even if you don't personally know someone who has been turned upside down by New Age thinking, if you are Jewish and or love the Jewish people, you have an interest in preserving the Jewish community and in defending them against plots to eliminate them. But you can't fight what you don't understand. So whatever your motivations, here are some basic facts to equip you. Number 1, different new branches, same old roots. The premises of New Age, sometimes called the New World Order, pause, yes. I want to make that really clear. New Age, New World Order are the same thing. Are most clearly mapped out in a religious society called Theosophy, founded 1875 by Hanna Blavatsky, which coined many of the code words found in this material and which remains a prime source for piecing together New Age foundations. Most, if not all, New Age concepts predate Theosophy. As its founder freely admitted, they borrowed heavily from classical Hinduism and Tibetan Buddhism, with large doses of Gnosticism, astrology, and other occultic power quests. So despite the name New Age, we are surveying an ancient system of worship found in various forms around the world: Babylonian, Egyptian, Norse, Atlantean, Pan-Animist, American Indian, and other religions dependent on empowerment from various spirit guides. That is a great explanation. And I try to tell people this, even like my family and stuff, when we talk about the New Age, it's not new. It's the oldest thing in the book, literally. This is why New Age teaching is so easily adapted to so many cultures. Alice Bailey, the next major New Age leader, channeled the extensive directives for the framework of the New Age, what she called the New World Order, and fully subscribed to Theosophy as well. Number 2, logic not required. The discerning reader will notice some New Age statements that contradict others, especially regarding good and evil, fate and choice, equality and elitism, truth and falsehood, the origins of Maitreya/Lucifer. Pointing out these contradictions to hardcore New Agers will not cause them to doubt, since they have accepted the Hindu worldview that truth, good, and reality are whatever each finds within himself at any given moment. They will patiently reply that your demand for consistency in any of these is arbitrary, unimaginative, and unnecessarily narrow. Do not expect logical analysis, empirical observation, or comparative argument to be taken seriously, as New Agers respect subjective experience only, and then only for the one who experienced it firsthand. And that sounds gnarly. There are also a few contradictions about the origin of the Jews, but interestingly, there are no contradictions about the destiny of those who insist on retaining the faith of their fathers. Number 3, deliberate riddles. Public pronouncements and teachings of New Age leaders, although usually in English, can seem like a foreign language. Recognizable terms are used in unintelligible contexts or given contradictory associations. These are known in esoteric societies as blinds or code words, riddles deliberately coded to convey still classified information over the heads of the uninitiated or hostile observers. The blinds used in New Age are many, and match those used in the occult, per Hanna Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, page 435. Thus, we on the outside can know only as much as New Age spokesmen see fit to tell us. As in all occult groups, some information is presumably shared only with top-level initiates. However, the riddles are being publicly unlocked with increasing frequency on a voluntary basis, showing that New Age sees its power base as sufficient to withstand any hostility to its agenda. In other cases, there are leaks by high-level leaders who have jumped ship, showing that even hardcore New Age loyalists are prone to disillusionment after years of a self-made reality. Number 4. Exploiting naive idealists. From my personal experience, I find there is a surprising number of people applauding the New World Order, the Age of Aquarius, the New Humanity, or the Ancient Wisdom, who are woefully uninformed as to where all this came from and where it is leading. I will say that again. To where this all came from and where it is leading. That is the most important thing. And one thing that I do try to show on my channel is, where do these ideas come from and where are they going? I'm sorry, I lost my place. Okay. This is often because they have chosen to back one attractive New Age issue without checking the foundations of the movement, or because they haven't checked a range of New Age sources. Most of these supporters are in the lower ranks, many of them working hard for their causes in the conviction that New Age will really make the world a better place for everyone, Jews included. It is in the interest of the upper leadership to promote this illusion and keep working level New Agers from catching on to the real agenda, since many would refuse to cooperate if they knew. Even so, there is already enough talk about global purges destined to wipe out 80% or more of the world's population, to make it clear that not only the Jews, but many dedicated world servers will be judged unfit for the New Age once the elite power structure is in place. It takes time for these dedicated light workers, in quotation marks, light workers, to digest the fact that they are being used and lied to, and sometimes there is a period of denial. But they deserve to know the truth. I therefore recommend passing this information not only to opponents of the New Age, but also to its supporters, and doubly so if they are Jews or are married to Jews. The series begins immediately below with links to all the segments at the end. Feedback, of course, is welcome and even expected. Whether your response is appreciation, doubt, or outrage. My only request is that you read everything before responding. Okay, I will end this reading there, and maybe I'll come back and read a chapter. I am reading The Rainbow Swastika by Hanna Newman, a report to the Jewish people about New Age anti-Semitism. Quote, I take personal responsibility for generating evolutionary conspiracies as a part of my work. I will select and create conspiratorial mechanisms that will create and perform evolutionary breakthrough actions on behalf of people and planet. One people, one planet. And that's from the Credo of the 1st Earth Battalion, a New Age warrior brigade. And here's another quote. The New Age initiate no longer identifies himself with form or even with soul, but with the will of divinity and the eternal plan and purpose. It becomes his plan and purpose. He knows no other. And that's Alice Bailey from Esoteric Astrology. This is part D. I will leave a link below if you would like to read the whole thing. I might do another chapter from this book, which is a PDF, which is for free on the internet. This is part D, the plan of the New Age. And again, remember, this is from a Jewish perspective, warning Jewish people about New Age anti-Semitism. We're testing the algorithm right now, just by saying that. Sorry. All who subscribe to the New Age must submit to the plan in its entirety or be left out of the New World Order. It should be noted that this plan is universally accepted among New Agers as literally having a superhuman origin. Alice Bailey is not the author, only the transcriber. Likewise, no leader today at any level takes credit for formulating the plan. From the UN, the United Nations, on down, every world server has his/her assigned task, but no one has the authority to change or cancel any segment. To do so would be to reject the hierarchy and jeopardize the coming New Age itself. Readers who are tempted to selectively evaluate this section as horrendous in some parts and not so bad in others must keep in mind three important results of this belief. The plan is a non-negotiable package. Number one. That was number one. Number two, New Agers do not doubt its wisdom. Number three, no one feels personally responsible for the consequences of carrying it out. As noted before, the hierarchy of masters will need to use human agents and even inhabit human hosts in order to carry this out. Therefore, the plan calls for patient incremental progress which does not overstep public tolerance. Quote, the occult hierarchy of the planet functions like any great international powerful corporation. They send out scouts and they test reactions to their plans. Finally, when they are ready, they move forward. And that is Foster Bailey, Changing Esoteric Values, a lecture in London, 1954. That's Foster Bailey, the husband of Alice Bailey. The specific stages of the plan were transmitted in detail through Bailey directly from Jawal Kul, the Tibetan master, beginning in the 1930s, but much of it was shared only with inner circle disciples until 1975, when the New Age leaders received instructions to go public. Most of the agenda can be found in Alice Bailey's Externalization of the Hierarchy. Key New Age disciples have released additional how-to books such as H.G. Wells' The Open Conspiracy and Barbara Marx Hubbard's The Manual for Co-Creators of the Quantum Leap. The plan is the organized program of the spiritual hierarchy. Pause, I'm just going to interject. This is my opinion, that the spiritual hierarchy is the powers and principalities that Paul was talking about. Maybe I should put that right here. I'll repeat that. The plan is the organized program of the spiritual hierarchy to get a selected portion of mankind to the next evolutionary level. Since quality is vital for starting the next root race, only selected starseed people are designated to make the quantum leap into the next level of human transformation. But even these need careful preparation by more advanced spirits, lest they burn out in the transition. The plan is quite lengthy and proposes many global changes, but here are facets that affect the Jewish people in some way. Number one, the plan for world religions. Quote, I, Jawal Kul, not Alice Bailey, I have sought with love and understanding to point out the faults of the world religions. Unquote. Thus begins the outline of the Master's plan for world religions. And that's from Externalization of the Hierarchy, page 543. Inexplicably, the only world religion whose faults are pointed out thereafter is Judaism, with Christianity suffering from corruption by Judaism. Here's the relevant text. Pause. I said this in my channel update, I think. It's good to remember that this anti-Semitism that they have in the New Age, it's also toward Christians. As Christians, we usually focus on the anti-Christian bias because we're Christians. But we are considered as a result of Judaism. Okay? Number one. I'm sorry, I'm just going to repeat that. Here is the relevant text. The reorganization of world religions, if in any way possible, so that their out-of-date theologies, their narrow-minded emphasis, and their ridiculous belief that they know what is in the mind of God may be offset, in order that the churches may eventually be the recipients of spiritual inspiration. Number two, the gradual dissolution, again, if in any way possible, of the Orthodox Jewish faith, with its obsolete teaching, its separative emphasis, its hatred of the Gentiles, and its failure to recognize the Christ. We note elsewhere that a separative emphasis, such as maintaining a Jewish identity, is enough to classify someone as part of the problem. In saying this, I do not fail to recognize those Jews throughout the world who acknowledge the evils and who are not orthodox in their thinking. They belong to the aristocracy of spiritual belief to which the hierarchy itself belongs. This obvious attempt at flattery sounds hollow when we realize that keeping company with the hierarchy means accepting their verdict on the racial karmic debt owed by all Jews, Orthodox or not. Number three, preparation for a revelation, which will inaugurate the new era and set the note for the new world religion, which will be brought personally by the appearance of the hierarchy on earth, bringing the new revelation. And that's all from the externalization of the hierarchy. David Spangler, Buckminster Fuller, and Foster Bailey, Alice's husband, confirmed that religious freedom must end in the new age, to be replaced by a world-state religion. We are told beforehand by Alice, or Djwal Khul, quote, "It is the revelation which lies behind all the activities which now engross the attention of the hierarchy. In other words, the New Age is a religion from beginning to end. And apparently it has identified Judaism as the only religion which can possibly compete with it. Hence, it must be removed from the field. This is the time-honored strategy of a monopoly which knows its inferior product can't stand up to comparison with a challenger. Are the New Age gods so insecure that they can't face a little bit of competition? Why not let humanity judge for themselves which is the superior religion?" It is only after this evil religion of Judaism is neutralized that the plan for the universal world religion can proceed. This second group of world servers will implement this new universal religion. By the time they come into control, the old theological activities will have been completely broken. Judaism will be fast disappearing. Note that the qualifier Orthodox is now missing. Bailey continues with other interesting predictions of the state of the world religions at that point. Buddhism will be spreading and becoming increasing. Dogmatic Christianity will be in a state of chaotic division and upheavals. And if the hierarchy's directive is followed, we can expect Buddhism to eventually break with its current image of gentle tolerance for all faiths, and even express itself more in line with the anti-Semitic tone of the famous Zen Buddhist Master Hakuin Yasutani, teacher of several American Zen leaders. For background, see Yasutani Roshi, The Hardest Cone, Tricycle Magazine, Fall 1999. See also the involvement of Tibetan Buddhists in Nazi Germany. Okay, number two, the plan for reviving the cosmic religious war. This part's really interesting because it gets into the dark to light and the Black Lodge and the White Lodge and all that. Okay. This aim of the masters to eliminate the Orthodox Jewish faith is a continuation of an ancient war between the White Lodge, the hierarchy, and the Black Lodge, the source of Jewish/Christian teaching. Bailey describes it in Externalization, page 71 through 77, as the great struggle between the Lords of Light and the Lords of Material Form, also called the Dark Forces. Pause. I'm going to say the Lords of Material Form is referring to the Lord, the God that made the material world. Unpause. See more on this in the God section. That's another part of this article. In spite of the direct intervention of the Shambhala energy itself, or Sanat Kumara himself, the hierarchy was defeated, bringing about the fall of the Atlantean civilization and imminent global destruction. Bailey refers to the final end of Atlantis in a catastrophe which obliterated all traces of the far superior civilization. This historical event has been preserved for us in the universal legend of the Great Flood. She confesses, that was Alice Bailey talking, she confesses, referring specifically to Noah's Ark. Since Bailey relies on the Jewish Bible for information about that time, surely we may also do so, noting the state of humanity during the period the quote-unquote masters held control of the earth. It is also revealing that the rainbow, the symbol which declared an end to that war, has been commandeered by the losers as a symbol of their return to fight again. Pause. Right now I'm reading this in February of 2025, where we are hearing a lot about the Golden Age. And this is the Golden Age that they're talking about, this Atlantean period before the flood that they want to bring back. That's the New Age, the Golden Age, the dark to light. Sorry. But it wasn't the masters. It wasn't that the masters were driven out by their arch enemy for the good of humanity. The hierarchy withdrew into the background, leaving man to find his own way out. That's page 125. A great example of responsible nurturing, to leave mankind alone with the chaos of a world disaster. But perhaps they had their own wounds to lick. But Bailey tells us of an outcome which, from a New Age viewpoint, was an inexplicable mix-up. The nucleus rescued from this destruction was not the advanced Atlantean seed, but the inferior seed of the older Jewish race, salvaged in spite of themselves by the Great White Lodge, a remnant which today is symbolized by the unworthy Jewish race. How ingenious to be a symbol of oneself. This circular identification passes without comment by Bailey or her master. No comment on the switched babies either, a bungling of such cosmic proportions that one wonders how the masters could dare to show up again on this planet. She also notes here that the present world crisis, as of 1939, the date of writing, has its source in this ancient conflict which never really ended. Her view of a link between Hitler's war on the Jews and this cosmic war becomes clearer in other comments by Bailey. The White Lodge is headed by the threefold energy of the Logos, locked in battle with two other energies also struggling for expression. The outcome of this spiritual war is so crucial, it will determine the trend of world affairs. These two dark forces are identified as the force of materialism and the force emanating from that section of humanity which is found in every part of the world and which we call the Jewish people. More on this in the Views on Jews section. That's a different chapter. After the Atlantean destruction, the masters of the White Lodge were forced to withdraw into space. Into space! you say. I'm sorry, that was me. And leave Earth in control of the Black Lodge. But they saw to it that White Lodge teachings were preserved in Babylon, probably entrusted to the one named in the Torah as founder of Babylon, Nimrod, whose name in Hebrew means "we will rebel," to be passed down to guardians of the ancient wisdom in each generation, collectively called the White Brotherhood. And in my opinion, that's, in today's terms, the White Hats. Egyptians, Aztecs, Incas, Mayas, Hindus, Buddhists, Chinese, Taoism, American Indians, and assorted enlightened ones who were branded as heretics by restrictive Judaism and Christianity. Among the last two, certain groups are identified. Okay, so among the last two, that means Judaism and Christianity, certain groups are identified. The Cathars, the Knights Templar, both connected with Holy Grail lore, Freemasons, which are held to have been established by King Solomon in his more enlightened years, Gnostics and Kabbalists, Jewish Lurians, and Christians or Hermetic Kabbalists. Those are okay with the New Age. While both black and white lodges consist of disembodied spirit beings, they each seek partnership with human beings. The hierarchy who left is now returning from a spiritual hideout identified in New Age as Shambhala to reclaim their inner government on planet Earth, which will finally put the Black Lodge out of business. In short, they plan to launch or reopen a religious war to end all wars, without which the New World Order cannot be fully established. That is why the worn-out Jewish dispensation, which includes a certain strain of Christianity as an offshoot, is to be outlawed and replaced by the New World religion. This will be mandatory and will have to be imposed in any way possible for the good of all. It is this next round that the hierarchy hopes to restore their earlier position as guides grounded on earth, a position equivalent to God in conventional terminology. The return is to begin with the reappearance of the Christ, first as a higher consciousness in the hearts of men, and then as overshadowing in which they hear his voice. In this way, says Alice Bailey, he will duplicate himself repeatedly, increasing his effectiveness accordingly. Finally, he will be able to move among men in a public manner. The use of the great invocation is meant to further this event. In fact, he cannot proceed with his assigned mission unless humanity cooperates by using that New Age prayer. Pause. I did a video recently about 2025 with Alice Bailey in the General Assembly of the Hierarchy, and I skipped. I will not read that prayer, that invocation. It's calling forth the Antichrist, is what it is. And I think there's something to be said here about the fact that they need people to all have like the same mindset in order for their plan or whatever to happen. Okay. Continuing. Number 3. The plan to solve the 4 world problems. Quote, the major quarrel between these two cosmic forces, according to Bailey, revolves around the freedom of the average citizen to think for himself. And the weapons of choice are material domination by the Black Lodge as opposed to spiritual control by enlightened individuals exercised under the guidance of the hierarchy. The battle lines where these two forces openly clash have produced 4 problems that must be solved. And that's from the destiny of nations, the influence of the rays today. The influence of the rays, like the sevenfold rays. I'll always bring this up. Mike Flynn and the sevenfold rays. We are the instruments of your sevenfold rays. Okay, anyway. As the New Age dawns, note their close correlation with current political and social changes. Yes, and this was written a long time ago. I don't know, maybe the 90s. Number 1, the problem of territorial possessions, which is the group correspondence within the family of nations to the materiality, to be distinguished from materialism of the individual. Note the echoes heard in the State of the World Forum. In cases like the U.S. and Israel, where territorial nationalism is upheld in a democracy and cannot be dismantled, as was the Soviet Union, by command from the top, New Age spokesman Benjamin Creme and others promise the end of democracy, if possible with democratic states themselves voting it out of existence. The New Age group, New Acropolis, is actively working to that end in Europe and South America, and given the scope of the FEMA laws already enacted in the U.S., the end of American democracy is one presidential phone call away. Anyone not familiar with these unpublicized laws or how they are to be activated can find out plenty with a simple web search. There is to be a single government, tax system, currency, identity register, language, and religion. Latest New Age projection for its inauguration is the year 2000. Yeah, so they didn't make their goal. That was 25 years ago, so. Many websites are debating this issue while the UN proceeds with its global governance program. We're getting close to some of these, though. Even like the currency right now. An identity register? Okay. The problem of sex, which denotes the problem of sex, which will involve a truer understanding of the law of attraction. Was Bailey advocating a return to Victorian values, or perhaps its opposite, a form of hedonism? Actually, she condemned neither. The problem to be corrected here is the motivation for engaging in sex. The exclusive, lifelong commitment expressed in physical-spiritual union, firmly established in the Jewish Bible, Genesis 2:24, are not for the New Age, and neither are the family relationships which sprang from that commitment and its sexual expression. The effectiveness of destroying this motivation through popular music, literature, TV, and cinema needs no comment. The steady erosion of the nuclear family as a natural result of sex achieved through social and legal pressures is also self-evident. What Bailey advocates to take place of old age motivations has nothing to do with commitment or even with physical pleasure, but exclusively with the fulfillment of a psychic obligation. The sex relation has therefore only one major objective, which is to provide physical bodies for incarnating souls. Ooh. That's from Education in the New Age. Eventually, the uncontrolled response to the sex urge and desire will be considered unenlightened. So how then are we to understand Bailey's reference to a law of attraction? The attraction here is the craving of disembodied spirits for a human host. The law is that hosts must be provided one way or another. Ideally, New Age parents are to be educated to offer their children as hosts even before birth. Wow. I'm stunned because this is me talking, obviously. What I've been looking at for the last few years with all this New Age stuff and the NAR and all this, and even with the transhumanism and the weird technology, and there's just all these different ways to get people in a state of consciousness where they are vulnerable to be contacting the spiritual realm, the spirits. And whether it's through meditation or yoga or other religions, New Age stuff, or whether it's through getting Benny Hinn to like throw his coat at you and knock you over. I don't know. Some of the Bethel Church stuff where people are, the whole Toronto thing. These are ways to prime people to be like receivers to be like hosts of spirits. That is what I've been seeing. Even like with the med beds. It's always about like putting you in a trance, going into a trance. The people that are astral projecting or taking trips to heaven, or it's like all these many, 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 many different ways. Oh. Okay. Continuing. Number 3, the problem of death, which is in reality the problem of the relation between life and form. This problem will be solved in the realm of psychology by scientific recognition of the true nature of the individual or soul and of the persona. In New Age terminology, form means physicality or materiality. The term we encountered in problem 1. In other words, we attach too much value to physical life. But that too is being duly remedied. The sanctity of human life, another concept rooted in Jewish tradition, which places saving lives as a top priority, is merely evidence in the New Age eyes of the evil force of material domination working through the Jews. Did you hear that? So, like I've said before, this is me talking, everything in the New Age and the occult is inverted. So, believing in the sanctity of life and saving lives is to them evil, because it's the force of material domination, because anything that's material or physical is bad, and the spiritual is better, because they hate the God of the Bible who created the world, and they hate the people that are associated with him. Okay. I'm just going to read that again. The sanctity of human life, another concept rooted in Jewish tradition, which places saving lives as a top priority, is merely evidence in New Age eyes of the evil force of material domination working through the Jews. Bailey herself so completely accepted the idea that death was beneficial that she saw the carnage of World War II as merely surgery to remove a virus, and the Holocaust as a lesson in right human relations. Right human relations. But the necessity of fostering a casual attitude toward death is clear on 2 accounts: the coming global purge and the elimination of any New Age rejectionists. Yep. Number 4, the problem of the Jews, which is symbolically the problem of humanity as a whole. This can be interpreted in several ways. Everything that is wrong with humanity is personified in the Jews as a group, and/or the Jews are the physical manifestation of what humanity is doing wrong. As we will see, either way, the Jews must fix the problem, not humanity. Significantly, Bailey emphasizes that the Jewish problem is essentially a religious problem. For the rest of this quote and her solution, see Views on Jews. There's all these links in here, so you can, a lot of them connect to other parts of this same book. Number 4, options in the plan: initiation or death / initiation and death. All who wish to enter the New Age must undergo an energy activation or rebirth, usually marked by a subjective trance-induced light experience, where one meets either a spirit guide or one's higher self. No different, since all is one. The resulting altered state of consciousness will eventually lead to a Luciferic initiation into the new humanity, or a submission to Lucifer as the leading divinity representing the Logos. This event is anticipated and discussed by many New Age leaders following our examples. New Age celebrity Barbara Marx Hubbard, one-time member of the Presidential Committee of National Curriculum and Democratic nominee for Vice President 1984, writes that the chosen elite, and that is the 10 to 20% of Earth's population who are judged fit to remain, the chosen elite will know they have received initiation when they instantly feel a subtle change of electricity in their bodies. And when I, an identified entity, presumably the initiator Lucifer, when I will be enabled to contact all of you at once. I'm sorry, I'm pausing because I just read this article by Barbara Marx Hubbard about how they're using these wearables to harmonize everyone's brainwaves and heart rhythms together on the planet across the world. So that just kind of, I'm sorry, I will repeat that. I will be enabled to contact all of you at once. This new mankind, by then directly linked with the being who David Spangler calls the angel of man's evolution from Reflections on the Christ, will continue on their journey to godhood at the new level, which includes a personal experience of the knowledge of good and evil. Sounds like Genesis 3:5, and it's meant to. New Agers confirm that this knowledge is what Lucifer offered to Eve in the garden, and it's being offered again today. Only it's been misunderstood due to fear inherited from the superstitious Jews. Since God has both a good and evil side, and one cannot attain complete godhood with only one side, Lucifer comes to give us the final gift of wholeness. If we accept it, then he is free and we are free. That is the Luciferic initiation, and it is one that many people now and in the days ahead will be facing, for it is an initiation into the New Age. And that's David Spangler. As New Age leader Dr. Jose Arguelles puts it, this initiation is a passive surrender to the higher galactic intelligence involving receptivity and something he calls a galactic imprinting, not specified if this is spiritual or physical. This imprinting will be done in groups and will trigger an actual evolutionary shift of major proportions. Homo sapiens on the evolutionary scale will be ended. And that's from Meditation Magazine from 1987. Arguelles indicates that individuals must make the choice, but the channeler for the spirit guide elder says that the world initiation is being brought to birth by a universal access of pain and of pressure, which she, the spirit, says is leading naturally to the right choice. And that's Vera Elder, the initiation of the world. So much for voluntary cooperation, but this fits in with what we are told about the tactics of spirits hoping to become walk-ins. And that is a link to another section of this book, which would probably be very interesting because there are spirits that want to walk in to you or anyone they can get in. Foster Bailey made it clear, Foster Bailey, the husband of Alice Bailey, made it clear that the New Age initiation would not only be mandatory, but would create a caste system. Young and old alike will have to live with the New Age standards. Those who do not will end up as irreconcilable outcasts. And that's from a book he wrote, Things to Come. Those who cannot surrender, having no souls, or who will not sufficiently developed in their spiritual journey, will simply be sent on to their next life in a global cleansing action. And that's from Alice Bailey, Raised in Initiations. Barbara Marx Hubbard puts it even more bluntly. People will either change or die. That is the choice. And that's from Happy Birthday, Planet Earth. Hubbard makes it clear, however, that the human agent of the plan of love and light will never be guilty of murder or even of mercy killing. New choices enter history, death by choice, life by choice. The dignity of humans requires death and life, by choice, not coercion, giving rise to a new science called thanatology, the art of dying with grace. This is about the, I'm reading this in February of 2025, and I just previously did an article on transhumanism of Barbara Marx Hubbard. This is what it's all about, right here. What I just read. Death by choice hints at the fact that the misfits who reject the New Age will not be the only ones required to face death. Dying with grace is the message of the death education curriculum taught as part of New Age education, the underlying concept being the beneficent nature of death, to remove that which has outlived its time. And that's also from the externalization of the hierarchy. Pause again. In 2025, I think we just had some recent legislation or something in Canada and the UK, maybe here, for people who want to voluntarily commit suicide. And they have centers for that. So, anyway. For more on this, see the humanities section and also below. This being taught to New Age disciples as preparation for the predicted cleansing cycle of nature, which will remove the majority of humanity which suffers from the lower vibratory rates, as told to John Randolph Price by his spirit guide Asher. When Price, founder of World Healing Day, balked a bit at the mass involuntary death of billions of people, his guide replied, "Who are we to say that these people did not volunteer to be a part of the destruction and regeneration? They justify murder and genocide." Part of the social transformation process concentrates on educating humanity that the global purge is necessary and beneficial. Any opposition to the idea will be silenced in the cleanup operation itself, and then presented as people who subconsciously wanted to be purged. Speaking of purge, I will leave a link below for a series I did on the culture of the sacred purge by Stephen Montgomery, which was more regarding the New Apostolic Reformation or the Latter Rain movement. But even it gets into Alice Bailey and all this as well, because they also have a purge mentality. Hubbard's spirit guides gave her a similar picture of things to come. Out of the full spectrum of human personality, 1/4 is electing to transcend, 1/4 is destructive, and they are defective seeds. In the past, they were permitted to die a natural death. Now, as we approach the quantum shift from the creature human to the co-creative human, the human who is the inheritor of godlike power, the destructive 1/4 must be eliminated from the social body. Fortunately, you are not responsible for this act. We are. We are in charge of God's selection process. Note the recycled selection process is necessary, we are told, because of the danger of the defective seeds might reproduce their defective disconnection and destroy forever the opportunity of Homo sapiens to become Homo universalis. From the clear delineation here, only 25% of humanity qualifies to transcend, and at least 25% of humanity is too dangerous to leave alive. Particularly those afflicted with genetic disconnection, like the wandering Jew. Hubbard, who informs interviewers at every opportunity that she was born to a Jewish family, apparently thinks her own racial karma will be overlooked by the hierarchy because of her devotion, or else she is resigned to leaving with the defective seeds. But what of the remaining 50% passed over in this selection process? Their destiny is death by choice. Neither destructive nor transcendent, they will accept the initiation and then be expected to vacate the planet for the good of humanity. Not that the 25% chosen to remain will be so lucky either. In initiation, they will be expected to surrender their bodies and minds in psychic union with an ascended master. As powerful as they are, these spirits will have to work through the relatively weak and primitive physical plane. Hence the need for initiating humans for the purpose of inhabiting their bodies. See the description of walk-ins in the God section. To stop there because this was pretty lengthy. The next part I will continue reading right here. Who will direct world affairs under the plan? There's quite a bit more here. So, all right. Thank you for watching or listening.
Run.
There's just one name that can keep you out of hell, and it's the name of Jesus. The name of Jesus. The name of Jesus.